of soul.
This is Bass Talk Live. Your host, Mark Jeffries and Matt Pangrack. BTL is brought to you by Lowrance, Lose, Strike King Lures, Bass Cat Boats, Ducket Fishing, Spro, AFCO, Big Bite Baits, Sunline, and TH Marine. BTL coming at you. Good Monday, everybody. Welcome once again to BTL Bass Talk Live, where we're going to talk bass fishing and anything else that we want to talk about. Matthew, how you doing, man?
Answering viewers' questions.
Well, that's what you do.
Social media.
That's kind of how you roll.
That was a poorly written. He said, you going live this morning? And I quickly responded, yes, just went live, see freshen Yurka Podge. Hopefully he'll understand to refresh the page. Great new looking studio, Mark. Reorganized studio, not a new studio. Same thing, just everything in a little bit different place. A live plant.
Just temporary though.
Now
we will switch that out.
Here's the thing. Now I did dabble in some like environmental classes back in college. Took a lot of nature stuff, and we did this one experiment.
Yes.
Where if you grew a plant, and you had classical music playing in front of one plant and then heavy metal playing in front of the other, the plant would basically grow towards the classical, away from the heavy metal. So we have a live, what is this?
I think it's a lily.
A live lily directly in between me and you in the new studio. If you're listening to this on iTunes.
No, I needed some filler.
Now, my theory is that if this lily lives longer than 2 weeks, it will start growing away from you and leaning towards the positive energy that I am emitting on my side of the desk.
Okay. That's a good analogy.
Do you think that could happen?
I think the thing's going to die unless I give it some sunlight. So, I can't get a fake plant. I thought about putting a fake plant there. Can't find one because Hobby Lobby's
not a necessary item either.
Yeah.
Great job organizing behind. I see you got the old spinner baits that Maynard just sent us. You with Mark Jr.
With the Cub.
He's still flying.
Still flying.
His oldest son's a pilot. Still getting married, or they push that back?
July 17th.
July 17th. Yeah. I never sent in my invitation. I realized.
Hey, speaking of marry, a big shout out. Today is my 29th wedding anniversary.
Wow, congratulations.
Over half my life with the same woman. How did that take place?
She's a saint. But yeah, got some stuff in the background. And we've got a very good guest today who has been smashing them.
Yeah.
On the Ozark Lakes.
Yeah. Well, that whole place is just on fire right now.
Yeah.
By the way, tomorrow we're going to have different mics.
Yeah, I'm leaning in. I feel like I am too. I keep trying to move.
Really hunched over. So
looking at us.
I've got new mic stands coming in today, actually. So hopefully they will be installed and everything goes okay. All right, good week this week. We're going to have Tim Horton on tomorrow, and then Boyd Duckett on Wednesday, and then Bradley Hallman in studio on Thursday.
Yeah, big announcement coming through if you've been following the Big Bite Baits BFE that Brad Hallman's designing. The second mold, I guess, is done. Those baits will be sent to Brad to where me and him can test them. You'll probably get a few. They'll probably send 25 or 50 since it's a one-shot mold. But I got the email, Mark.
You did?
I got the email from the man, and I will I'll read it here. It says, here is the link to use to submit the BTL colors. You can start promoting at any time. It will expire on May 6th, and we can pick a winner. So following the show, there will be a link on the BTL website. It'll just say a banner, and you will be able to submit a name and color for the BFE, the flipping bait that Brad Hallman is designing. And all you have to do is send in your email address, the name of the bait, and then whatever your color combination is. There's sparkle, glitters, laminate, multiple laminates, different colors. So, and then the winner will get 500 of those baits. So that contest will start as soon as that link is up. It's super easy. It goes straight through Big Bite. So don't send it to our social media. Send it to the link on the Big Bite color contest. Yeah, color name, color idea. And it says, get creative. Colors can be solids, 2-color laminates, 3-color laminates, or swirls, all with or without flakes. So if you've ever wanted to design, you've got a color combination in your head. Everybody has that. Those are like the most popular things. Select it. But instead of just getting it named after you, get 500 of the BFEs when they come out and the color that you named. So be on the lookout for that. Pretty cool to see this thing almost done.
So the link is going to be on the BTL page?
The link will be on the BTL page. It'll also be on my Instagram in the link in the description in my Instagram and Brad's when it's done. Mine's just at Matt Pangrak. All right. So that runs through May 6th. So get your color combinations in.
Very nice. All right, a couple of things real quick. Dude, a lot of good feedback on the Crete one-on-one thing.
Yeah, we just didn't catch any fish. Yeah. If you follow the one-on-one, went live on the YouTube, BTL YouTube channel last Thursday. Getting some good response. But like I said, if you haven't seen it, Crete eked out a victory over me. But, man, we caught 6 1-pounders. Crete wasn't happy, so we got a rematch coming up for that. Jeffrey's one-on-one against me, or my one-on-one against
this
Jeffrey's.
Week,
I guess you're
hopefully
the elder statesman in this, so you'll go first in that list. We'll be out later this week as well, and then a couple more in the works with a couple of additional pros. So
very cool.
Thank you for the support and the comments on that. It's
good stuff.
Cool
a lot of good feedback on that. And man, yesterday, Matthew, I had about 4 hours. And I had heard one of the other ways, it's not a Carolina rig or a topwater that I really, really like catching fish, is fishing boat docks with a spinnerbait. And I had heard that the shad spawn was already happening at Texoma.
Already?
Yeah.
Well, I guess it is on the Texas border.
Yeah. So I took a few hours, went down to Texoma, and I did something yesterday, kind of played a game against myself. It was me versus the marinas, and I wanted to see how many marinas that I could catch a keeper fish in.
And?
What do you think the number was? Out of 10. Out of 10.
You told me before we went live.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I guessed 10 out of 10.
No, it was 10 marinas, 8 out of the 10. I went from Buncombe Creek to Little Glasses.
How was the boat traffic on Texoma? It was gorgeous.
Horrible.
Gorgeous yesterday.
Dude, it was like a washing machine out there. It was really bad.
I mean, you're not a fan of anything that's bumpy. Any bumpy ride. I can't tell you how many times we've gone fishing in the past and you see a little ripple on the water and you're like, nope, staying close, not making the run.
No, that's not true. That's not true at all, dude. I've been in rough water. I just choose. I don't need to. But it was one of those special days on Lake Texoma where the wind wasn't blowing. I got out there early. There were very few boats on the water for, say, the first hour. And then, dude, by 9 a.m., it was a washing machine.
But you still caught him. 8 out of the 10.
I caught Michael Jordan.
23 fish.
23 fish.
Counted 23 fish, huh?
I did. And every single one of them was a spot.
Really?
No largemouth, no smallmouth, no sand bass, no nothing. Why. I don't know.
Well, I can understand not catching a smallmouth in the marinas, but you'd have thought.
Yeah.
Have you ever got on the... occasionally I'll do this. Got on the white bass around the docks pattern. That will happen at Texoma with the stripers and stuff. If the shad are up around the floats and stuff, you'll actually get the stripers and the whites that will
on
be
the boat docks
tucked right in on those boat. Now it happens mainly on the south end, but I will tell you what, multiple times I have had striper. Usually it's this time of year on a jerkbait or spinnerbait, throw a crankbait down, and it's just a cast that you don't. I mean, it's not like a rocky point with wind and birds where you're like, oh, that could be a striper. You're like, that's a 5-pound largemouth, and then you're like, why is a striper in a boat slip? But I guess
they're
if that's,
everywhere
I
down
guess they're swimming around underneath him and
Feeding
stuff
on the
because they're
shad.
the floating boat docks eating the
Yeah.
shad around it. But
Yeah.
that's one of the most disappointing. One of the bass nations I must have caught, and flipping a jig around it too as it falls. I must have caught 7 or 8 striper around boat docks. Like make the perfect cast, boom, and it comes out and
Yeah.
it's a damn striper, like a real striper, flipping boat docks.
Did you watch the Michael Jordan?
No, I still don't have ESPN.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It was really, really good.
Good. How many parts of the 10 are they up to now?
4.
4.
Yeah.
Okay.
3
What
and
about
4
the
was last
NFL
night.
draft? Did you watch that?
I'll give him this much. I've never been a real big draft guy, but I'll give him this much. They pulled it off.
Technology-wise,
Without a glitch.
Yeah, they had a lot of
Now, they spent a lot of
live
money.
streaming and stuff set up, and all the drafts, homes, and things like
Yeah,
that.
they spent a ton of money on it.
Yeah, it's like what we're seeing with
It was really
the fishing,
cool.
all the live streams and the
Yeah, it wasn't on
challenges and
Facebook.
all that.
It wasn't a cell phone broadcast.
Highest ratings they've ever had for it.
Yeah, really, really good. They just an outstanding effort. And yeah, I watched it a little bit. I wanted to see where some of the
Most exciting
Big name
pick for
guys.
me, 17, I think, was CD to Dallas.
that'll be interesting.
That's going to be awesome.
That will be interesting. All right, man. What else? Anything else?
Went out to Grand. Still disappointed in Grand. The lake has changed so much. I'd be interested in talking to Randy Blockett and asking him about changes in Ozark lakes because we talked to Bobby Lane down in Florida. You've got tidal fisheries, you've got a lot of vegetation fisheries, and they seem to kind of cycle and change a lot. Would you not agree?
Yeah.
But the Ozark fisheries, they're kind of the same. Even after a flood, they go back to the same and all that. But to me, it feels like Grand has really changed.
Well, ask
And
him.
he's been around long enough and fished the Ozarks. I'd like to know how long it takes a man-made kind of impounded lake like a Grand, Table Rock, Bull Shoals, one of those to change where you get on the water and go, this is not like it used to be.
We'll ask him. All right, coming back with Randy Blockett here on a Monday. Everybody stay tuned.
The search for the best combination of value and performance is over. It ends with Elite TI2. From high-res views of active imaging to mapping in real time with Genesis Live, the high-powered performance of Elite TI2 continues to dominate. And now, wirelessly share sonar waypoints and routes between TI2 displays. Get up to $200 cash back when you purchase a Lowrance Elite TI2 or Hook Reveal display. Visit Lowrance.com/offers for details.
Yeah, you care about gear ratios, inches per turn, and ball bearings, but most importantly, you want reliability and dependability in the equipment you use. Luz doesn't cut corners when it comes to the gear they build. The new Speed Spool LFS is the best $99 reel in the market. Go see for yourself.
We've paired one of the most hulls in the history of bass boats with a proven lineup of trusted accessories. We're bringing you best-in-class value and performance, leaving others in your wake. Turnkey value, turnkey performance. The Pantera 2 is an overachiever in the 19-foot category. Once you hit the throttle, you'll feel the rush, and there's no looking back.
Kevin, what are you doing here?
Oh, I'm just filling in for Billy.
I need a 660 shad crankbaits in the Series 5 model.
We're out.
You're not out. You got all kinds of them right there.
We're out.
Kevin, I need 6.
Have a lollipop.
I do not want a lollipop.
Have a lollipop.
Do you have it in sexy shad color?
At Duckett Fishing, we have assembled the top pros in the country to help us design rods to give you a competitive advantage.
Castability, strength, durability, action, sensitivity, weight and balance, and consistency.
Combine that with the best warranty in the industry, and you have rods that are pro-driven.
Duckett Fishing, pro-driven.
I want to share to you a new product we got coming out from Sunline. This is the FC leader size spools that we have now. We've gotten a lot of requests for this. A lot of you guys use fluorocarbon for leaders only, myself included. And one of the problems you have is when you have a 200-yard spool, that might last you 2, 3, 4 years. You might even lose it before you even get done with the spool. So we've gone to a little smaller spool. These are 50-yard spool sizes. You know, that way you're not holding your line on forever. You can keep your line fresh, use it when you can, stores real easily in the boat. We got all of our popular line sizes that you're used to with our Sniper from 5 to 14 pound. If you guys are looking for a line that you're only tying for a leader, go check out Sunline FC Leader, 100% fluorocarbon, and give it a try.
All right, we are back on a Monday, kicking off the week. It is time for our special guest. And yeah, I really will be glad when we get those mic things in. We're leaning over, man.
Tad bit hunched over with this mic. Sound quality, though, is phenomenal.
Yeah. Well, it's
well done on that.
The wires are...
How many hours did it take you to get those wires organized?
Crazy.
How many wires would you say in this whole setup? How many plugins and feet of wire do you have, do you think, in the studio?
I don't know. Thousands of feet, probably.
Where is it all going? Because it's like curving around the entire outside of the studio. And then I see 1, 2, 3, 4. I see like 8 cables over there.
Yeah, and they're all insulated now.
Does it go behind the fridge?
Yes.
Which I did replace You
did, and it's all organized. So appreciate that.
When I edit, I like to enjoy, whatever he's got in there, which is a Michelob Ultra.
Yeah.
And he was complaining because I've been doing a lot of editing that I was drinking all of his Michelob Ultras. So I replaced it.
So you did replace it. All right, let's bring in our special guest now. Randy, you there, man?
Yep, here, guys.
All right, man. Great to have you on again. Sorry about the little bit of delay there, but we got you on. And, man, fishing is just crazy in the Ozarks right now, isn't it?
It is right now. You know, we've had it's sort of an unusual situation. We've had so much rain over the past 9 months around here. I mean, my yard here in Springfield has not dried out even last summer, and as a result, the lakes have been high last fall, all winter long, all spring. Got a little bit more color in the water, and that maybe that's making a change. But it's April. You know, the fish are biting everywhere in April, but it's been really good here in the Ozarks for sure. You know, simply because a little bit more high water and colored water for sure.
Ask him now, Matt.
Well, right before we went to break, I was talking, and we've had a lot of Bobby Lane was on talking about how Florida lakes change so much based on the vegetation, and you have a lot of current through other, current-driven lakes around the TVA that change sandbar locations and things. But I've been fishing Grand a lot this year. Haven't fished it a lot for the last 4 or 5 years, though. And I've talked to some of my buddies, too, and they're like, man, the lake has really changed, and I go into areas, and it just feels different. And I said, well, we got a guy on who's been around the Ozarks forever. Talk about just kind of over your lifetime, how long it takes, or if it has. Maybe I just suck on Grand. Now, that could be another option. It could still be really good. But do those Ozark lakes seem to take longer to change? Do they change? What's your experience with that from the time you started fishing them to now?
Guys, I've been fishing Grand and Table Rock a ton since I was in the mid 70s when I was in high school and everything. So I've seen that transition as far as from 40 years ago to today. And here's the thing that is really amazing to me. I remember back when my dad and a friend of his used to take me down. We used to go to Table Rock or Grand every weekend when I was 10, 12 years old. And the only thing my dad would throw would be a white and black hellbender. You guys know what a hellbender is?
I've heard of it, but describe that sucker.
It's like a metal lip trolling lure. It's about 6 inches long with a spinner on it. It's like something you troll for muskie or walleye. And they'd go down to Table Rock and Grand Lake and catch like 7 to 9 pounders throwing this thing all the time. If you would throw that bait on Grand or Table Rock right now, you could throw it for a week and never catch one. So I think what happens is the bass, I think that they evolve so quickly to survive in their habitats that they get conditioned to certain baits, over the course of time. So the bait technology is always having to keep up with the evolution of the bass. And so that's one aspect of it. The second aspect is the environmental changes. 40 years ago, you could hardly go into a cove at Table Rock Lake and make your way through it because of all the standing timber. Now all the standing timber is dead on the lake for the most part. Grand is a little bit different because you didn't have any of that standing timber even a long time ago. It was cut out early on. The lake itself has not changed that much, with the exception of the fishing pressure at Grand.
One of the things that I follow you a lot on social media and the posts that you have, it seems like you do a lot of the instructional video type stuff, like in your wheelhouse. It's not like a guide trip with you. It's like a learning studio on the water.
Yeah.
And it seems like you got a lot of interest in that this year too, of people who wanting to come down and learn. I mean, Table Rock has to be one of the best learning grounds too, with the density and population of fish, to be able to catch them kind of doing whatever you're trying to catch them on that day.
Yeah, definitely. So, I've been doing the instructional jerkbait trips with the Megabass, all the Megabass line of jerkbaits for the past 3 or 4 years. And in the past, we've been going everywhere, like Bull Shoals, Table Rock, Stockton, Grand, Beaver, all Lake of the Ozarks, all over. But everybody's just wanting to go to Table Rock for this year. So probably 90% of the trips that I've had that I go on is we're going to Table Rock. And like I said, these are instructional trips. I take the anglers out there and, I go over everything about the jerkbait technology as far as, how to throw it, what you want to look for, some subtle details of lure manipulation, some of the fine points of the technique, because I think jerkbait fishing is probably the most difficult technique there is to master, because there's so many variables to it. So it's been really good. I've had a lot of good reception to it, and it's been a lot of fun in between the tournaments.
Randy, we've had some legends on the show here recently over the past couple of months, and I think a lot of people don't realize the seasoned veteranness that you have in this game. I mean, you've been doing this game a long time.
Long time, man.
And some of the standings that I looked at, from the 90s, on some of the BP top 150s and everything. What are some of the early memories that you have from so many of those vintage performances that you've had in the 90s and early 2000s?
Oh man, are you talking about good experiences?
Yeah, good. First, hey, I'm being positive today. All right.
Okay. That's the whole thing about tournament fishing. I mean, the thing that's great about tournament fishing is it will test you to learn more about yourself than anything you can do, because you're going to experience every emotion you have as a human as a tournament angler. Everything from joy to sadness to fear to anticipation, anxiety, just everything. So there's not another sport out there that will allow you to do that. But as far as the best thing that probably ever happened to me was definitely my first Bassmaster win back in the 1989 at Bugs Island Lake. I'd been fishing that was my third year on the circuit. I was struggling to keep my head afloat like everybody does. I'd never been to Bugs Island Lake before. I didn't know anything about it, and it was one of those things that the universe just threw me a bone out there, and I wound up winning that tournament, and it just sort of something clicked, and it just sort of it made me feel that I can do this, and I just have to really have a good work ethic and focus on it and stay with it. But that one tournament right there, being at the right place at the right time, and winning that event was everything. For me it was. There's been a lot of good tournaments like that. When I made the Red Man back then it was the Red Man All-American. Yeah. It's the BTL now, but in 1984 I qualified for that, and that was a big stepping stone, because that allowed me to get a partnership with Ranger, my very first sponsor way back. and it sort of gave me a taste for what fishing was like other than fishing here in the Ozarks. But there's been a lot of great experiences. I mean, after probably 400 tournaments, it's hard to remember them all, but it's been pretty cool so
Megabucks. I was looking at a bunch of stuff for Megabucks. What do you remember from those sets of tournaments?
Well, I remember several things about that. I remember at the 1996, I think, Megabucks. Two of them actually. Yeah, two of the Megabucks. I should have won both of those tournaments. I had the first one, the one that I believe Tommy Biffle won at Lake Murray. I was leading the tournament going into the last day, and that was the 10-hole course back in Megabucks there. So I was leading the tournament going out the last day, and I got into the second hole, and I was throwing a floating worm, and I jumped off 2 6-pounders on the second hole, which that would have won the tournament by 10 pounds if I had just landed either one of those. So anyway, I jumped off 2 6-pounders. I get to the end of the course there. We had one more hole left, and we had like probably 15 minutes to fish. And Chuck Roberts, who was remember Chuck was the announcer of the Bassmaster TV show. Yeah. He was following me, and he came over to the boat. We were on the last hole, and he goes, Randy, we got to get out of here. He said, I'm not supposed to tell you this. He goes, I just want to tell you. He said, you're going to win this tournament. He said, you're leading it right now. We got 15 minutes left. He goes, I'm not supposed to tell you this, but congratulations, bud. So I'm all pumped up and everything. And I get back to weigh in, and Tommy Biffle, the last 2 minutes of that tournament, he catches a 4-pounder and wins the tournament. So So that's not the worst part about it. So that was 96. The next Megabucks we went to at Richland Chambers, I made the finals of that tournament. Now we had the top 10 finals at Richland Chambers, at White Rock Lake in Dallas, Texas. Jeff McGee wound up winning that tournament. But anyway, it was super tough. It only took 7.5 pounds for 2 days to win that tournament. The first day of the tournament, Denny Brower, I think, he was leading it with like 7 pounds. And I zeroed the first day. And the second day of the top 10, the first hole I went to, I caught a 5-pounder, and then I caught one that weighed about 2.5 pounds. And so, I didn't catch anything else the rest of the day. And we take the boats out, and we're going to the weigh-in there. And Trip Weldon, the director of Bassmaster, he comes up to me in the parking lot, and he's looking at everybody's live well, and he goes, Randy, he goes, I just want to tell you right now, congratulations, you're going to win. He said, Denny zeroed, so Denny had 7 pounds. Jeff McGee only had one other little one, and I had a 5-something, and Trip looked at my live well. I had a 5-something and a 2.5, and he shook my hand and said, congratulations. We get up there, and mine weighed, I think McGee's weighed like 3 ounces more than I did in that tournament, and he wound up winning the tournament. But anyway, I was congratulated by the Bass staff twice for winning Megabucks. I never won either one of them. So, long story short.
That's an interesting story. Sticking with the Bassmaster, you're fishing all 8 of the Opens this year. Trying to qualify for the Elite Series. Got off to a great start in Florida with an 18th place because when you're fishing all 8, the top 4 in the average that fish all 8 get an invite to the Elite Series. We're starting to kind of take shape. It's looking semi-optimistic that we might have some tournaments in the next couple months, but you looked at that revamped schedule when you're fishing all 8, and you're going to have kind of a slammed fall there between all of those. It's been a while since you fished in the fall like that outside of the U.S. Open after it changed. But are you excited towards the end of the year where it looks like some of those rescheduled with Louisville, with Cherokee, possibly with Neely Henry? It's still on now, but like that September, October, November deal looks like it's just going to be derby to derby to derby.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we're supposed to find out the next day or two if they canceled the Neely Henry tournament. I'm not sure if they did or not.
I haven't gotten any word it is yet. Right now it's just right now it's still on, but they also have a tentative reschedule date that's right in the middle of that October. That's where the rest where it'd be like 4 and 6 weeks for the guys fishing both the Easterns and the Centrals.
Right. I don't see how they could possibly have Neely Henry, but if that's the case, we're going to have like 5 or 6 tournaments almost back to back in September through November, first part of November. And I would much rather fish during the fall time of the year. I mean, I want tournaments to be as tough as they possibly can. I cannot stand to go to Slugfest. I don't like these tournaments where you catch 15 pounds a day and not even make a check. You know, I miss the days of the fall fishing. I mean, absolutely. I mean, I just think there's an aspect about fall fishing that is really conducive to tournament fishing. And I'm really looking forward to that. If it was up to me, we would fish from September to December every year. I love that time of year fishing.
All right, Randy.
Of course, I'm not deer hunting either. So I mean,
yeah. All right. I'm curious, a guy from the Ozarks, when you go way, way, way back, how did you learn how to fish grass?
As far as the submergent grass?
Yeah. Hydrilla, milfoil, coontail, stuff that doesn't exist.
Guys, that was a long learning curve because that back then when I started going to Okeechobee the first time in 1986 for bass, there wasn't any of the information out there. I didn't know anybody. There was no YouTube tutorials. There wasn't any info. It took me just years and years of just time on the water. And, you know, back then we drew for partners, Bassmaster Invitationals, draw tournaments. And I happened to draw some guys like Mike Sermon from Florida. I drew Mike one time in a tournament. I drew one of the, I can't even remember his name now. Was it Sermon? Anyway, the first tournament I fished at Okeechobee, a guy named Russ Bringer won the tournament back in the mid 80s. And I got to fish. I saw him fishing. I can't remember who I drew in that tournament, but we were fishing around Russ. And I got to see what he was fishing as far as keying in on, and it was just that slow process of time on the water, talking to guys, fishing with guys to get to work, you know, comfortable with offshore grass fishing. And now I love it. I mean, it's one of my favorite things to fish, but it's definitely different from anything we have around here.
I never even thought. So like, okay, you go to Okeechobee, giant bowl. Obviously you have Bassmaster magazine that would kind of clue you in on it. But you have no Navionics chips. You're dealing paper map only, right?
Yeah.
And you're practicing by yourself.
Right.
So you'd heard of, what is it, the monkey box there?
Yeah, I don't even know if I was aware of that.
Okay, here's my question. How did you like know where you're going? So you've never been there before. You have no map. There's no Google Earth. You have a paper map. So you say, I want to go look at this on the paper map, and then you literally follow it with a compass to get there?
Yeah, that up until, probably the mid-'90s, that's what we did all the time. And we had a compass on the boat. We had paper maps. You had a flasher, and that was it. And it wasn't until I remember back when GPS very first come out, Gary Klein and I were working with it, and we took our handheld portable GPSs and took electrical tape and electrical taped them around our knees. So we'd run down the lake and look at these little handhelds on there. But back before that, I mean, that's what it was. And I miss that a lot. I mean, if it was up to me and I had billions of dollars, I would create a tournament trail where you have a compass, you have a paper map, you're allowed one 2D sonar on the console, one 2D sonar on the front, and go fishing. And just rely on your instincts, rely on your intuition, rely on your primal skills as an angler. And let me get on my soapbox a little bit here right now.
I like it.
Because here's the thing about it. Fishing is all about magic. It's all about the mystery. It's about the mystique. That is what attracts people to fishing. It's not about going out there and catching fish. It's not about going out there and having $25,000 worth of electronics on your boat where you can pinpoint every bass. Once we lose the mystique and the mystery behind bass fishing, we lose everything that there's value to the sport. And that's the one thing that, excuse me, that I'm really concerned about right now is we're getting away from that. And you see a lot of the purists, like with the trout anglers. They've sort of stayed in that lane right there. They want to keep it in a certain thing, and I just wish so much that we could go back like to the 80s when there was an element of that. Excuse me, guys. When there was an element of that purity and where you really had to focus on your instincts and your intuition more. We're getting so far away from that right now, and I don't like that direction at all.
So who was the best in like the 80s and that? Like, who was the best with a compass and a map where you went somewhere and you went, oh, that guy's going to be able to go find stuff that no one can because he's just got a sense of where he's going?
Well, there were several different groups of skill. You had, back then, David Fritz was the undisputed king of the map, of the flasher, the triangulation, the compass, all that type of stuff. I mean, that's why he dominated so much in the early 90s, which was sort of the late end of it like that. But he didn't have any competition out there. He was the only one sitting out there doing that stuff. There were a few guys in Texas. Like, I remember some of the guys in Texas out there, the old school guys like Tommy Martin and those guys, they could fish offshore some too. Harold Allen, one of the guys like that. Harold used to be one of the offshore guys, way back. But David had that pretty much. But as far as everybody else, guys like Denny Brower, that you could make those long runs with nothing but with paper maps, compasses, that type of stuff. We didn't really have that back then because back then we didn't. We didn't really go to those really big lakes like that too much back then. Mm-hmm. So it was, everybody stayed a little bit closer to what they normally do. But the main thing that was different back then was the anglers that first figured out how to triangulate, using the stuff that we had. They were the ones that really made hay out of it back then.
Randy, I agree with you 100%. I would love to see an event like that. But let me ask you this. Is the consumer and big business not driving the fact that you got to have 4 graphs on your boat, you got to have $5,000 in tackle, $2,500 worth of rods and reels? Is this entire characteristic of the consumer being driven by what they think, not by how you can truly catch fish?
Well, obviously you don't need it. I mean, that's one of the reasons John Cox is such my hero. I mean, John Cox, that guy, he's at the top of his game, and he's undoubtedly one of the top 10 anglers in the world, or maybe 5 anglers in the world right now. And he could do just as well with just an old flasher. He does not need that technology. He's made that point. I love it when I hear him talk about that stuff. But I got watching, I remember I was watching a clip of Jacob Wheeler when he won that MLF at a Eufaula a couple months ago. And it looked like he was on a dang spaceship. I mean, I can't even remember how many graphs he had on there, but I remember one of my friends, he figured up, he goes, I just looked at Wheeler's boat, and I looked at everything on there. He goes, he's got like $26,000 worth of electronics on that boat. And I'm like, are you kidding me? So it's like, so you got one school of thought, you got guys like Wheeler that are taking full advantage of that technology. Then you got guys like Cox that are on the other end of the spectrum that are doing well. So no, you don't have to have it. I mean, to compete, to make a living at the sport, I mean, you can do it at other elements. But so many of these guys that I've been fishing with, on the instructional trips, a lot of them have been using the new Garmin units, the new Lowrance, HDS Lives, all that type of stuff. And, so many anglers out there, they're so reliant on that technology that it's almost like they feel like they can't catch a fish if they don't have it. I mean, I've got talking to several of them, and it's like, man, they say, if I can't see them on my electronics, because I just don't have any confidence in catching fish. And, man, I just don't think that's the direction we need to be going with in the sport. I mean, I'm not telling, companies to quit, generating profits from new technology, but when you're talking about, why can't you set up a situation where, like in competition, you're limited to a certain amount. It's just like golf or bowling or whatever like that. You're limited to a certain amount of equipment. Why can't it be the same in bass fishing? And then if you're a recreational fishing, do whatever you want. If you want to have 5 units on your boat, take them. But, I wish there was a little bit more of a level playing field, that everybody had to abide by on that.
Could you not play devil's advocate and say the same conversation was relevant when the first 2D sonar came out that replaced the flasher, or the first GPS came out, or the first foot-controlled trolling motor, and that competition is driving the ingenuity in the sport of bass fishing, and that you're pushing the envelope in the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s and now and beyond just like it, and that's a natural evolution in the progression of the sport?
Yeah, I think that's a valid point you make there. I think the big difference on that is the affordability of it, because there's a big difference between having new technology and having one flasher. I remember back the flashers for Lowrance and Humminbird back then were like $120, $130. Where now, like I said, it's very common for everybody out there to have $15,000, $20,000 worth of electronics on the boat. So, and here's the problem you have with this, because you'll hear a guy, I know some people will probably listen to me talk and say, oh, he's just from old school, man. He's just behind the times. That's not it. That's not it at all. It's like, it's not being able to keep up with the technology. It's the tough part. It's being able to afford to keep up with the technology, because this technology changes year after year. And, and I see, so many of these guys out there struggling to pay their bills and make their house payment. And then they've got to feel like they've got to keep up with all this new changing technology. And it's just, that's the thing that really bothers me a little bit. And that's why if we had like a more of an equal level playing field, where that income disparity did not discriminate in the sport, and having that level playing field would just be the ideal situation, in my point.
Okay,
right, hang on.
Okay.
I know you have one more, but I want to let everybody know we're going to take a quick break after Matt's questions and then get to some of the questions on the instant feedback.
This is just a question. It kind of relates to some of the stuff I'm seeing on the instant feedback. Do you feel like there are anglers, I mean, you don't name names or anything, do you feel like there are anglers who are hiding behind technology to make up for their deficiency in natural ability and skill, and the only reason they are on the professional level is strictly because of the technology aspect that has been predominant in our sport for the past 4 or 5 years?
I think that there is a segment of anglers out there, and there's a segment of very high-performing anglers out there that have become so reliant upon the technology that we have electronically that their skills have atrophied in other areas. Where if they had to go out and you put them out there in a boat with a trolling motor, with no electronics, no map, whatever like that, you wouldn't even, they would fall off the page as far as in performance. But they become so attuned and so adept at deciphering and reading the electronics that that's just where they're at now, and it's very effective to them, and that's where it's leading. I've seen. There are so many young guys out there, and I fished with a lot of them that have become so good at like just spending their time looking for one log that they see on side imaging, or a group of 2 or 3 fish out over 60 foot of water, and it's like a completely different ball game. And obviously, and you couldn't do that without that technology. But yeah, you're right on that.
All right, Randy, we're going to take a quick break, come back. Go to the instant feedback. The fans have some questions, so we'll get to those in just a few minutes.
Let's face it, fishing electronics are no longer an afterthought. They've become a necessity. And at the Bass Tank, our experts match you with the right electronics, provide professional installation, and educate you to help maximize your catching results while providing support along the way. Because let's be honest, it's about catching, not just fishing. And when you're ready for better results, join the Bass Tank team. Visit us today on Facebook or go to thebasstank.com.
Blue Water by TH Marine. Offering LED lighting solutions for your boat, trailer, truck, ATV, and so much more. Engineered and built to be rugged with waterproof and submersible options. Designed for easy installation, Blue Water is available in a variety of colors and styles. All backed by a limited lifetime warranty. Blue Water by TH Marine.
The name SPRO says it all. SPRO stands for Sports Professionals. When you look at the pro staff that SPRO has brought on board over the past 15 years, it's been pretty incredible. I mean, one got it just then. From the development of the rock crawler to the McStick, from the Fat Papa to the Little John series, when you tie a SPRO bait on, you know it's been designed by a professional to get the job done. While I travel the country on the Bassmaster Elite Series, I simply can't let the weather be the reason I don't win $100,000. That's why I use AFCO clothing to keep me warm, dry, and protected from whatever Mother Nature wants to throw at me. My season depends on it. My career depends on it. AFCO, any fish, any water.
All of us on the Pro Tournament Trail use Gamakatsu hooks.
Why?
Because they are absolutely the best.
It's not about how many bites you get.
It's how many you put in the boat.
Gamakatsu makes hooks for every fishing style.
We didn't come this far to lose fish.
Did you?
For more information, visit gamakatsu.com.
The Big Bite Baits Kamikaze is a very unique bait, and it's got a full body but with ribs to give it a bigger profile but not more plastic. It's got a jointed tail that gives it a lot of action, as well as this up and down crawl type trail with holes and ribs in it, so it creates a bubble trail almost. This bait is supposed to be fished upside down or vertical like this on a great for a chatterbait. I prefer it on a swim jig as well, but you can also cut it down and put it on the back of a finesse jig. You know, flip it around for some spotted bass or flipping docks. Anytime you want a small, compact, you know, little trailer for it, this is great for it. So check out the full lineup of swim-ons at bigbitebaits.com.
All right, we are back with our special guest, Randy Blockett, and it is time to go to some of the questions on the instant feedback here. And Matt, Randy, I'm going to kick things off. A longtime listener here, Dave, he brings up a point about, you know, you talk about the flashers being $100, $200, whatever they are back in the day. Well, now you got a jerkbait that's $25. You know,
Yeah,
what do you think about that, Randy?
It's the same across the line. I mean, you got, you know, the baits are more expensive, you know, the rods, the reels, everything across the line on there. You know, and it's the same with like Megabass. Like you know, we were talking earlier as far as, you know, back when Rapalas and Old Rebels came out, I mean, they were like $3 or $4, and, you know, now Megabass, you know, for, you know, the jerk baits that I use are over $20. And obviously, you know, when you're dealing with lure technology, a lot of it, the price point on there, a lot of it has to do with the components that make up that particular bait. So when you're dealing with a bait like a Megabass, you know, jerk bait, your components are a lot more different, high quality, attention to detail than some of the lower end ones. But the difference that we have on there as far as lure technology versus electronic technology or any other, you know, equipment that we're using is there's a big difference between, I mean, somebody can afford to pay $22 for a Megabass jerkbait, but how many people can afford to pay $25,000 for, you know, a set of 5, you know, electronic units on their boat? I mean, so there's, you know, there's an affordability issue with that. But yeah, everything has gone up with that. I mean, that's just, you know, that's part of the evolution we've seen in the sport.
There you go. It's not $25 to me. If I'm fishing docks, I'm spending $120 on Megabasses because I can dead center a dock pole better than just about anybody in the business. Trust me on that one.
Yeah, there's something about the Megabass jerkbaits. They sort of gravitate towards those concrete.
They do. You're like, oh, that's good, and then it just has like a little bitty fade to it. Then you just boom, ding, and then you're like, oh, it's caught up around the hook, and you bring it in, and you're like, nah, that bill's sinking very slowly right now.
Yeah. Right. You know, and I've had guys send me messages like, man, I love those Megabass jerkbaits, but I was up at Lake Champlain. I had 6 pike bite me off on there. I lost 6 of them in one day. So it's like, yeah, I've heard of that.
Wow. All right. Rich in Connecticut wants to know, have you spoken with Aaron Martins?
Yeah, I did. I spoke with Aaron about 2 days before he went into his last surgery, and the guy's remarkably. Aaron and I mean, we go way back. We used to camp together, stay together, vacation together, stay at each other's houses. I mean, he's just a great friend of mine. Haven't had a chance to spend as much time with him the past few years because we're fishing different circuits. But man, I consider him like a brother to me, and he's just the guy's just has a remarkable positive attitude considering what he's going through and facing right now. And if there's anybody out there that can be dealt a hand of cards like he has and come through it and come through it better on the other end, it's him. But I've just been really, really, impressed and touched by, the attitude that he has on this, right now.
All right. Jay Pinion in Kansas City wants to know, if you could afford to buy one Megabass jerkbait, which one would you buy?
I'd probably have to preface that question as far as knowing the water visibility, but as far as if there's just one Megabass jerkbait that you can take anywhere in the country in a lot of different water clarities and catch bass, it would be the Ito Natural. That bait will catch fish in clear water, stained water, dirty water. I've caught fish in it in water visibilities from 8 inches to 8 feet. So Ito Natural, Megabass 110.
There you have it. Let's see here. What's your favorite lake that you've done Fish the Movement? And are you going to do a challenge on one of these lakes?
Oh man, yeah, I was going to tell you guys about that.
Yeah.
I partnered up with Fish the Moment. It's Fish the Moment.
Oh, Moment. Sorry.
Yeah. Little quick story here on that.
Is that Johnny?
Johnny Schultz created Fish the Moment. I met Johnny back when he was a little kid, and when he won the casting competitions and all that stuff. I've known him and his parents forever, and I saw Johnny down at Table Rock a couple months ago, and we got started. And he's got a great YouTube channel called Fish the Moment. It's probably the most instructional YouTube channel I have ever seen, particularly on offshore structure fish. And the guy is he reminds me of like a 20-year-old Doug Hannon. He's just so impressive. The information you get from him is incredible. But anyway, we started. He started these map breakdowns where basically he's created maps of the lakes across the country, and he goes in and he identifies 4 different areas of the lake and gives you his perspective of where you need to go based upon the season. And I partnered up with him and I started making maps with him on this. So I've been working with Johnny a lot, but anyway, it's been a great deal, and I can't wait to move forward with him. But your question with Johnny, what was that again? Could you repeat that?
Are you going to continue to do more of those videos?
Yeah, that's the thing. We're going to continue moving forward, doing all the lakes, man. We probably wind up doing about every lake in the United States at some point. Everything's going real good with right now, and I'm really enjoying it.
I'm trying to find the picture right now. So Chip Porsche and I fished that college national championship in 2007, 2008. And there's this kid there that was sponsored by Triton, had his jersey on, really round head, just a great, happy little kid. And it was Johnny Schultz. And he was like 10 or 11, and we were like, you've got a boat deal? And he's like, I know Earl, and I got a boat deal with the Triton. We're like, what? So and we have the Casting Kids thing in common. He was, I think he was 10 years exactly after, because I was 98, and he was like 2006 or 7 or something like that. So I've kind of kept in contact with Johnny Schultz ever since then. And then he actually watched some of my YouTube videos, and he called me a year or 2 ago. Actually, it was last year. And I've been in contact with him ever since. So I've known him since he was a little kid too. Kind of did the fishing thing, got out of the tournaments, is kind of getting back in the tournaments. He's got like 50,000 followers on YouTube. Really breaks things down, really does a lot of seminars and things like that. But yeah, that's what he does now, is he does his YouTube and fishing and breakdown videos. He did a bunch of stuff over on 10 Killer later this year. But I had talked about in one of my videos, the BMR squared, Burgess Marina Riprap and Ramps pattern, and he had heard about it, and he called up and he's like, what is this deal? I'd love to know more about it. So very high IQ for a fisherman. Would you not agree?
He's a phenom, guys. I'm telling you, just get on. Any of the viewers out there that haven't seen it, get on YouTube, check it out, Fish the Moment. You will be impressed. I mean, he is a phenom. I mean, it makes me feel, when I talk to Johnny, I mean, he's not much over 20 years old. When I get done talking with him, I feel like I don't know nothing about bass fishing. I mean, I feel like I'm just starting out. I mean, he's like an Einstein of bass fishing.
He's been doing it since he's been high level since he was 9, 8, 9?
Yeah, he has. It's just, it's unbelievable. It's just, like I said, I'm just starting to look at some of his videos on YouTube, and I learned so much. I learned more off of his stuff than I do anyone else. It's just the way he breaks it down, and his, just his grasp of it is amazing.
He said he was going to get back into the tournaments. I'd like to see him jump into the Open.
All right, I'm sorry, Randy.
I see your 710 split setup behind you over there. I gotta tell you one real quick story here. One of these things in this quarantine I've been doing is between doing all the work and in between the tournaments is at night I've been watching. If you go on YouTube, you can go bowling oldies on YouTube.
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
Oh yeah.
That is like the greatest discovery I have ever seen. And I started bowling back in Joplin at Carl Richards 4th Street Bowling Alley. And I saw a video from 1950, I think, of Carl Richard against Don Carter on that show. That's going way back.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So it just reminded me of that. And seeing Mark Roth pick up the 710. So
yeah. Believe me, I have watched a ton of vintage shows. There's also a YouTube channel for Buddy's Pro Shop. Look at that one, Randy, and they have like stuff all the way back from the early days of the PBA all the way up to like the 70s, 80s, and 90s.
Well, there's such a parallel between that and bass fishing, because if you look back at the old bowling pros, like I'm talking about during the 50s and 60s, you look at them out and they look like some weekend dudes now. They throw the ball like 15 miles an hour. It's all straight. And you look back at the bass fishermen back like in the 70s using the pistol grip sitting down. And now you see these guys throwing the ball 25 miles an hour. And, it just, that's the whole thing. Competition, whatever it is, it just accelerates so much each generation after each generation.
Yeah. I got to ask, what about the two-handers? Do you like the two-handers there, Randy?
Man, I don't care for it. I mean, I'm so impressed with the way they tear the pins out, but there's something about just the strokers like Earl Anthony and those guys that were just nice and smooth, and I just like the one-handers better. I mean, it just seems like
that was the most obvious question ever. The guy wants to go back to flashers, and you think he's going to accept the two-handed bowlers?
No. Do you know who Jason Couch is? Does that name ring a bell, Randy?
Man, I can't. No, it doesn't.
He's in the Hall of Fame. He's 50. I mean, he did something in the sport that had never been done. He won 3 straight Tournament of Champions back when it was the Firestone Tournament of Champions. Anyway, He was on a podcast, and he was talking about how the two-handers and just how technology has changed. And I sat there and I listened to it, and it's the same parable that I've said on this show. There are so many comparisons from a technology standpoint, from a media standpoint, from a player standpoint in bass fishing compared to bowling.
I know what it's just like. Why can't we go back to rubber balls and bowling, or even at the very most plastic? Get rid of all these reactionary finishes and just, because like right now, I remember back in the late 70s. I mean, if you rolled a 700 series, I mean, you did something. And right now, these guys, even on the PBA condition lanes, are averaging 250, 248 for 40 some games. It's sort of like now you can't go out and not win a tournament if you don't catch over 20 pounds a day, which never used to take place 30 years ago.
I know.
I didn't know Randy was so into the bowling.
Yeah. Yeah. Is that bowling center still there in Joplin?
Yeah, 4th Street Bowl. In fact, my dad he bowled a lot back in the 50s, and there was these old vintage. They got a bar there, and they've got these old vintage bowling shots from like back in the 50s, and like my dad won the city championship like back in 1957, and greased back hair with the loafers, the black and white photos in the bar. It's really cool if you're bowling.
Wow. Do you have your own bowling ball?
2 of them.
You have 2? Do you have a bowling shirt?
I did when I used to bowl in leagues. I don't know.
Oh, you were a league bowler too?
Yeah, man. I bowled junior leagues from the time I was in grade school to high school, and then I bowled in like 3 leagues a week for 10, 12 years after that.
I had no idea. I really didn't. I had no idea. I knew he bowled, but I didn't know he bowled that much.
Who, in your opinion, has a better chance of, quote, making it? A weekend league bowler or a weekend tournament fisherman? As far as making it to the professional bowling tour or the Elite Series BPT FLW tour level, who has a better chance in your opinion?
Oh man, probably the bowler, just because it's more affordable. I mean, you can work out deals with bowling alleys that you could, mop floors or whatever and get free lanes, and you could probably. The bowling part of it is just if you have the work discipline and you have the time that you want to put into it. But fishing has a lot more uncontrolled and controlled variables. It has a lot more uncontrolled variables in it, so probably bowling. I would guess. Not to take anything away.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Not to take anything away from pro bowlers, because if you've ever seen one in real life, that it's impressive.
Mm-hmm. We went and watched last year. He took me to one of the qualifying professional ones where like the Svendrick Henson, Walter Ray Williams, Belmonte, they're all there and they're just rolling it down there. Who is the dude with the fro and the crazy pants? Kyle
Troop.
Kyle Troop.
Yeah. Wow, that's pretty cool. All right. Matt wants to know, what are the best situations to throw the Trick Darter X80?
The Trick Darter, by far, is the best jerkbait you can throw in super, super cold water. When you're dealing with water temperatures that are closer to 40 degrees, particularly water temperatures that are water temperatures 40 degrees or just a little bit warmer, clear water and lakes that have a lot of spotted bass in them. That's when that bait really shines. It'll get down probably 7 to 8 foot deep on 6-pound test line on a long cast. And like I said, if you take a Trick Darter and a 110 and you get in the same boat in cold water conditions, the Trick Darter will outfish the 110 5-1.
Wow.
But if you don't throw it on a spinning rod, you're not going to catch any fish on it. And most people, they've got a mental block on a spinning rod with jerkbait, so that's why they don't use the 80 as much as the 110.
Distance or different action, or why?
Well, the Trick Darter, you don't have to work it near as hard. It reacts a lot more with less rod manipulation, and it darts a little bit harder. But I'm not darting it hard in the wintertime. When I'm fishing a jerkbait in 45 degree or lower water, I'm almost crappie fishing with it. I'll throw it out there, I'll get it down to its maximum depth, and then I'm just barely reeling it and just barely twitching it just like that. I'm not jerking it. So it's more about the profile than the action once you get it down to that maximum depth.
That's really interesting. If you remember the 2013 Classic, both Ike and Ellie and Hank Cherry were using a very subtle motion. Ike was using a Rapala, but Hank Cherry was using the Megabucks, just a real subtle motion, and that was that freezing cold Classic where the water was really cold.
Yeah.
And then you had Van Dam, who was just ripping it like it was a midsummer smallmouth bite, but they both caught him on it. But he said, what's the lightest line you've ever thrown a jerkbait on?
The lightest I throw them on is 6-pound test. I mean, I think that, a 6-pound test fluorocarbon, I use Seagar and Vizex 6-pound test. Like I said, you can get that bait way down and still land big fish on it, but I don't think you need to go any lighter than that with them.
And heaviest?
The heaviest, sometimes I'll throw up to 20-pound test line if I'm fishing around heavy cover with it. And the only time that I do use a bait caster, which is only like 10% of the time, is like if I'm wanting to keep the bait high in the water column, like around shallow grass or around docks or something like that, around targets. Then especially if I'm fishing it within sight, I'll use 20-pound test.
Randy, Dave wants to know, with all your experience in jerk baiting and being in the Ozarks, is there any other jerk baits, maybe some vintage jerk baits that you've had from years ago that you'll throw on those lakes?
Not much anymore. Megabass makes so many different jerkbaits, size profiles now that it pretty much takes they got everything I need as far as profile. One jerkbait I still have in my box that I do use on occasion is the old Smithwick Magnum Rogue, the big one. There's some situations I've seen where they, for some reason, they really like that big Magnum Rogue. When they won't bite hardly anything else, but for the most part, since Megabass came out with the Kanata and the bigger jerkbaits, it takes that place. But I still do have quite a few of the big Rogues with me that I use occasionally.
Hey, what about a redfin?
Yep, redfin is awesome. A redfin is a killer bait in all the Ozarks from early May to first part of June. It's a killer bait. A lot of people don't use it, but it's one of the best smallmouth baits that you can fish up on the northern tier lakes. If you go up Champlain, St. Clair, Lake Erie, that type of stuff. But I use a redfin and also the God, what's the other one there? The other one that is it Bomber makes it? Not the long A. I can't remember the name of it.
Oh yeah, they make Bomber makes a one that looks similar to a redfin that's jointed. It's a harder plastic. It's heavier.
I'm sorry, the jointed thunder stick. That's what I'm thinking about.
Okay.
The jointed thunder stick. Yeah.
A Storm.
Yeah.
Jeffries has a bunch of old thunder sticks in the package.
Yeah,
Did you ever throw those when those first came out?
The jointed thunder stick is a killer, but the thing that you want to do on that bait is that they've only got 2 hooks on them. So what I do is I'll take like a hook hanger like off of a Zara spook, and I'll drill some holes in the middle of the bait, and I'll make a 3 hook setup on it, and it increases your hook setting or your catch ratio, tremendously by doing that.
Cool. Barry in Missouri wants to know best jerkbait color for muddy to stained water.
Muddy to stained water, so I'm guessing you're talking about water visibility of probably 15 inches or less, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
2 different ones. If you got stained dirty water on a sunny day, I like a metallic finish, like the say like the GG threadfin shad on Megabass if it's sunny out. And if it's cloudy out, I like a flat finish, say like the Secret Grape color. But you'll find out on a cloudy day, dirty water, flat finishes will get more bites. If the sun's out, the metallic finish.
All right, a number of people want to know what your spinning rod and reel setup is for a jerkbait.
Spinning rod that I use for them 90% of the time is the Megabass Roshi Whip Snake. It's a 6'11" rod. It's got a pretty stiff butt on it, and it's got like a medium tip on it, medium soft tip. I use the Lew's TLC 3000 bait casting reel and Seagar Invisex line, anywhere between 6 to 10 pound test. Most of the time, I'm using the 6 to 8 pound test, for my jerkbait fishing. And that combo will allow you to make a longer cast than you can with any other setup, including baitcaster. It allows you to get better action on the bait. You can manipulate it. You can fight the fish better. Once it's hooked, you can cast better in the wind with it. It's just all the clients I have on my trips, they go to spinning after a day in the boat with me on that. It's so much better setup.
And no backlashes when casting, or do you take the line out and troll it out behind the boat at the end of the day?
No, you'll get fluffs. I mean, that's one thing about it. I don't use braid to fluorocarbon ever, so one of the give and takes with that is you'll get a little bit more line fluff with it. So a couple times a day, I've got to pick out a fluff and retie, and that's just part of it. But the advantages outweigh those disadvantages tremendously.
All right. Hence, Tim in Wisconsin wants to know, why do you prefer spinning over baitcast?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Longer cast, easier.
That's what I'm saying.
Just answered all those questions.
Yeah. So I wanted to throw that out there because he got that.
Yeah.
A number of people want to know, are you involved with any new projects?
Yeah, well, the couple different ones. I've been working a lot, in between the tournaments for, Bridgeford Foods, my title sponsor. We've got the angler inserts in Walmart where, if you ever go in the sporting goods department, they've got a display of jerky in there. selling our Sweet Baby Ray jerky. Here's a little shameless plug here. But we've been placing those in all the Walmarts. It's got the fishing team on it like that. And then also I've been working with Johnny Schultz on the map creation in between the tournaments and the instructional fishing. So between working for Bridgeford, working with Johnny, the instructional fishing, I'm as busy as I've ever been in between the tournaments right now.
All right, there you have it. Anything else, Matthew?
No, I'm good.
It's good stuff. Yeah, it's been kind of a crazy day for me. We've got this new setup, and
I want to ask him because
Jeez.
Randy's one of the few that will think it's a legit question and won't just laugh it off. So we've got this live plant, right? You follow? We got a live plant in the studio. I am under the impression that after 2 weeks, if this live plant is still around, I have a more calming, subtle influence as opposed to Jeffrey's, who sometimes emits anger and aggression, that this plant will start growing towards my side of the desk as opposed to Jeffrey's side of the desk, since it sets as the kindness of the positivity. Do you believe that will happen with this plant too?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, plants react to energy, whether it be positive or negative. I mean, that's a reality in my point of view. I mean, one of the biggest lessons I ever learned, or one of the greatest lessons, is when I went to this survival school that I went to about 30 years ago. The dude that taught it was raised by this old Apache Indian that was like 85 years old, and they were talking about how to make a bow, the best way to make a bow. So and this Apache Indian named Grandfather told him, he goes, okay, when you go to find your wood for the bow, he said, you want to go in the woods and, just take your time, walk in the woods real gently, and try to find the area of the woods that's the thickest, that has the least amount of sunlight in it, because those trees in that area that's got the least amount of sunlight have the tighter growth rings and will make a lot stronger bow. And once you find this tree, and this process may take days to find this one tree that's like a little sapling to make your bow out, is you sit down next to this tree and you have a talk with this little sapling, and you say, okay, I want to ask your permission to take you. I'm gonna make a beautiful bow out of you, and you're going to be able to feed my family, and I'm going to really honor you for your sacrifice, for giving yourself to me for this bow. And only after, the Apaches would have this talk with the sapling would take the time to take the sapling and make the bow out of it. So that goes back, that's what you're talking about there, goes back towards ancient man, that just having that understanding and that respect and that communion with nature and the plants around us.
I agree. See, I knew he would. See, I can already tell the tip of the leaf that's in front of you is already wilting, Mark. Look how strong and firm my leaves are.
I know.
Vibrant.
I know. All right, Randy, thank you so much for taking time out. Hopefully you guys will be fishing soon. And when things kind of settle down a little bit, hey, man, I'd love to bowl a couple with you up in Joplin.
Anytime. I need all the pointers I can get. I fell so behind on the new bowling technology, so maybe you can get me caught up on that.
I can do that. Definitely can do that. All right, Randy, take care, man.
Okay, thanks, guys.
See ya. All right, there you have it. Randy Blockett. Really, really good stuff there, man.
Mm-hmm. Like I said,
very good stuff.
He's been doing it for a very long time.
Okay, a couple of things real quick, folks. First, I need 2 volunteers from our fan base
to test technology.
All right, 2 volunteers. Here's what I need. Just shoot me an email. You need to have access to Skype, and I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to throw you a couple bones for helping us out. All right. It will take, I'd say, maybe an hour. I need an hour out of your day.
Right now, after the show?
No, not right now. I got to get the emails first.
Okay.
So if you are willing to be a volunteer.
What are they going to be doing?
I'm not going to say. All right. There's a couple of things. One, they're going to be a part and work toward this new little project that I have.
Oh, you're going to do a test run of the new project.
Yeah, to give back to our fans.
Okay, it's pretty cool. Yeah, it's cool.
All right, so you're going to get something, and you're still going to be able to be a part of the fan appreciation
At first,
event.
I thought with the new technology you had, it would just be an hour of them sitting there, you going, can you hear me now?
No.
How about now?
No.
Is it clear? Can you hear me? Because I've done those 20-minute calls before.
I know we've had some challenges today.
No, it's been good.
going to get worked out. I know some people said that the audio's not in sync with the video. I'm going to get all that
Doesn't
worked
affect
out.
the iTunes listeners.
All right.
Google Play.
Going to get that all worked out. All right. I've fixed the sound issue. Now I just got to go through some computer issues. So
My
I will
leg
get that
is
taken care of.
cramping, though. Like, I need to be able to I cannot stretch my leg. I feel like there's a clot forming in it right now.
We'll have the mic arm. Hopefully they're supposed to be here today, and we'll get that taken care of. Okay, so if you're willing to volunteer and have access to Skype, right, or any other
Email
video
you by
program,
when?
Do what?
When's the cutoff for this?
Today. I need to know today.
So the
Mark at bassone.com. Just send me an email as long as
if you're
you
listening
have.
to this after the 27th, you're out of luck.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're not out of luck, though. You can get your big bite colors in, and then when you go to the BTL Bassone
Yeah,
website,
we'll have that out there, by this afternoon
Yes.
sometime?
Yes.
All right, and then click on the link. All right, so please, folks, and the other thing is it will create a situation where I can make sure I got all the computer upgrade issues taken care of.
It seems to me like you're kind of rediscovering bass fishing this spring.
I have been. It's probably the most that I've
It's
fished
the most
in years.
in 5 or 6 years that you fish.
That's because I'm not teaching. Well, I am teaching. It's just virtual teaching.
Zoom?
No Zoom. It's all Google Classroom. You know, it's all
But you've
text and
enjoyed it.
everything.
You've gone with multiple guys. You've gone by yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, you're catching
It's
fish.
been cool.
You've caught
it really
fish
has.
4 times in a row now?
Yeah. 4 times in a row. That's a rarity. So I'm actually going to go to, what was the lake that he mentioned in Dallas? White Rock?
Can't remember.
Eagle Mountain.
Yeah.
Eagle something. I might be going there on Friday.
Eagle Mountain's down there.
Yeah.
They have cool names. Possum Kingdom.
Yeah. That's
Eagle
about
Mountain.
2.5 hours away. So yeah, I am spending a little bit more time, not entire marathon weekend trips or anything like that, just little, day runs. Didn't catch any fish when we went to Dirty Bird.
That's
well documented.
Well, everyone wants to, there's not many people, but seriously, you do not put out positive vibes about Thunderbird.
I don't.
If you listen
It's
to
a
Randy's
butthole.
story, you have to be open-minded about stuff.
I know.
The lakes you feel confident in, you
Yeah.
go there with positive vibes, and
I'm
I
with
think
you,
that
man.
changes the way you fish.
All right, the plant is going to get good vibes here.
That leaf is a little wonky
Yeah, it's-
over by you.
It's not looking good. Anyway, so please send me an email, mark@bassone.com. I need 2 volunteers. This is going to be really cool. 2 volunteers. That's what I need. 2. All right, Matthew. Tomorrow, Tim Horton, hopefully live from the water. That's the plan. He's been fishing a lot. Every day he's throwing out content.
Yeah, but he's still got a TV show, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of content with Tim Horton and then Boyd on Wednesdays. So we will get through this, folks. Tomorrow's show will be even better, especially from a technology standpoint. All right. I like the look, Matthew.
Very nice.
It's cool. We'll be adding to the collection here. You're going to bring some stuff that's not up there. So
Yeah.
we will get that taken care of. Everybody be safe. That's it. We're out of here.